you so much for speaking with me. And thank you so much for the invite that I got as we speak last week on a very special exhibit that really does talk about the history of probably the fastest sport on the planet. Can you talk about what Toronto is being honored with, please?
Well, thank you very much for having me, and thank you for being there. And Toronto is being honored with the North American debut of the F1 exhibition, and so it's a 20,000 square foot exhibition and experience that celebrates the past, present, and future of Formula One. And we did it in Madrid, Spain last year. It's in Vienna, Austria now, and Toronto was picked to be the North American debut because it's such a fantastic sports and entertainment city. And the exhibition is, as we said, it has some of the history and some of the cars, components, and elements together with what everybody's looking for today, or a lot of consumers are, which is a heightened technological and immersive experience. And it brings those two together. And we think it's appropriate because there's a lot of core F1 fans who have been following the sport for many years. And there's some newer F1 fans, whether they came in through Drive to Survive or the inclusion of extra North American Grand Prix. We're happy to have everybody, and we're happy to provide a full scope of F1 that everybody can enjoy.
How did somebody come up? Who came up with this, and why do you think this was so important to do? I know why, and it really hit me because of what I ended up seeing, but the idea behind it.
It's a great question. And so we being my company, we've done lots of different exhibitions and experiences over time, including the Rolling Stones and Jurassic World. But F1 was a bit different, and it was something that we were chasing for a while, because the feeling is it's a truly global sport. It's a fascination for a lot of people just because of the speed and the innovation and the glamour. But it's not that easy to engage with as a consumer and as a fan. There's only 24 Grand Prix in a season, and they're in very specific geographies. Depending on where you live, you may have to get up in the middle of the night, and depending on where you live, they're difficult to get to. With the popularity, the ticket prices have gone up, and so it's an opportunity to engage and embrace yourself in this amazing sport without the obligation of getting to a Grand Prix. And if you've gotten to a Grand Prix, this will hopefully enhance and heighten your understanding. And as we mentioned, there are some newer fans who love the glamour of it. And if they came in through the Drive to Survive period, that's fantastic. But some of them don't know all of the details or the history of the sport, or how you qualify, or how the points work. And so we're hopeful and optimistic that we can provide entertainment and excitement, but also educate some people on some of the elements of Formula One that they may not be familiar with.
Now, I've got headphones on. Headphones are important for this exhibit. Explain why.
Well, it's every exhibition's a little bit different of how you engage with the fan, but because we've got that combination of technology and history, we chose to have a headset component where if you're going through the exhibition, particularly the first sort of half to two-thirds, you get to pick and choose the elements that you're most interested in. And so it's sort of a point and click system where you can educate yourself and you can get all the background and elements of an individual part. And if there's a part where it's not grabbing you the same way and you want to keep moving because there's other parts that are interesting to you, you get to pick and choose, but you get to have that opportunity that when you point and click, you get all the details of what's in front of you. And so the hope is that's a great fit for most consumers.
Now, not only do we get to see these magnificent vehicles, the history of it, literally, but there's something, other things that really surprised me. I don't want to take too much away from the folks, but I got to make mention of some of these things. One, the driver suits that they wear. Two, the helmets. There's literally an area where there's like, to me, there's like hundreds of helmets. And the other thing that really got to me, there is a crushed vehicle. I don't know how you guys did it, but there's an exhibit of literally a crushed vehicle. Can you talk about those three elements I just spoke about?
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's, as even people that have been to a number of Grand Prix, it's hard to get too close to the cars. And then even if you get close to the cars, generally they're flying past you. And so the opportunity to see some of these cars past, present, and future, including a very modern F1 car with the exposed engine. That's not something that the vast majority of consumers have seen. And even people that are used to heightened experiences, it's pretty amazing. I mean, the size and the detail of these cars and all of the elements that go into it. And one of the central themes that F1 had as our partner was innovation. That, F1 and the F1 teams have continued to innovate in safety and aerodynamics and all of these elements that permeate down to the cars we drive. And when you talk about the survival room, which is the remains of the Romain Grosjean car that crashed at the 2020 Bahrain Grand Prix, it's a great element because you see the cars past, present, and then into the future cars, and you see the original cars from the 50s and 60s. If you got into an accident in one of those cars, it would be a difficult situation. And you see how advanced things have become, that he was able to hit a wall going 180 miles an hour and walk away with just some bumps and bruises. I think, it speaks to the innovation. And it's also a mix of the two, the sort of core fans and the more recent fans, because there was an entire episode of Drive to Survive that was dedicated to that crash. And so many consumers are familiar with it. And in the room, we've got all of the footage of it, plus a exclusive interview with him, and then the remnants of the car, which you can see it firsthand, of sort of the burned pieces and the different components that came out of it. It's a fascinating experience, and one that we get a lot of compliments on.
There's also a salute to the folks who basically gave their lives in the emergency crew. Can you talk a little bit about that too?
For sure. It's we opened the show on May 1st, which was the 30th anniversary of the passing of Ayrton Senna, who's one of the F1's great drivers. And so we have an Ayrton Senna car in the exhibition that's a particular yellow color, and everybody seems to flock and want to get their picture with that. And Gilles Villeneuve, who was one of the great Canadian drivers, both Ayrton Senna and Gilles Villeneuve were in accidents that took their lives, and both of them have artifacts in the show. And so it felt like a sort of a logical transition room to pay tribute to them, together with a lot of the drivers. And it's we're trying to tell the story of F1, and so there is the glamour and the speed and the intrigue, but there's also the danger element of this is a very dangerous sport, in that the drivers are going incredibly fast, and it's also a testament to how difficult this sport is to be a driver. There's 20 drivers at any given time. Those are incredibly specialized athletes that are able to do this.
Now, this isn't about just the past, the present. It's also about the future. One of the things I was interested in one of the videos that I was watching is the fuel consumption, even the type of fuel that's being used, hopefully in the future. Like, this really is about taking things to the next step. And there was even talk about how the organization helped during COVID. There are so many fascinations I did not know about that I got a chance to learn through this.
Well, we're happy you were able to consume all this and get all the details. It sounds like you enjoyed yourself, and it is helpful for F1 as our partner, because they want to explain some of these different elements: the sustainability, the innovation, the diversity. And like a lot of different companies and organizations in the world today, they're trying to figure out the right path to sustainability. And so how do we find the right fuel? How do we reduce our carbon footprint? How do we move this entire operation around the world in a more efficient basis? And it's a challenge because of the size and scope of everything that comes to town for a Grand Prix. But we wanted to properly reflect that F1 is spending a tremendous amount of time and energy figuring out how to do that, and it's fascinating.
Two more elements I want to talk about. One, of course, it's almost like a buildup to where we get to towards the end. What happens there? Because it's such a great, I would say, I think it's about 5 or 6 minutes long, but yeah. Talk about being brought into the fastest sport in the world.
Well, the pit wall theater experience is a I think it's about 7 minutes, and
Hmm.
it's a fully immersive theatrical experience. And it took us a long time to put it together to figure out exactly the way we wanted it to be. And it uses hologauze and hologram technology so that the consumer can feel sort of fully immersed in it. You're in a car, you're in a race. Um, the car hits a wall. You're in a fireball. You're in all of the different elements, and it's just over the last number of years that the technology has allowed you to create an experience like that. And we think a lot of consumers today are they're used to heightened technology, and so they want to see something amazing. They want to see something different. And the other unique element that we layered in was we got a unique opportunity to have access to the F1 historical video archives, which haven't been accessed by very many people ever, really. And so
Wow.
the opportunity to layer in past, present, and future elements, and it sort of appeals to all consumers, because if you're a recent consumer, obviously the technology of it is amazing, and there's a lot of the current Drive to Survive period, but there's a lot of historical and legendary drivers and events that are layered in. And so the hope is there's something for everybody, but it's always something people comment on that the finale theater experience was amazing.
The other amazing part, because I kind of did it a little bit backwards, and I hope people do it that way too, the driving experience, because there are several automatic vehicles that you can sit down and you can try to drive like the drivers. Sorry, I was against the wall every time, or I was going backwards. Talk a little bit about that, please, because it's the positioning, it's the driving, it's difficult.
Yeah, it's a great point, and that's the most comprehensive driving simulator area that we've had in any exhibition. And we knew the North American fans and the fans in Toronto were going to love that. And when you talk about an exhibition and experience, and how is it immersive, and how do you actually get to be part of it? Well, when you're talking about F1, driving an F1 car is about as immersive as you get. And so we worked with our partners to try to get the most authentic experience possible. As I'm sure you experienced, you have to really get into the seat, the same way an F1 driver was. There's no sort of elegant way of doing that. You see a lot of people sort of try to figure out their way in. And the other thing, as you said, it's fun and exciting, and everybody's having a good time doing it. And you put on the earphones and you're right into it. But it is amazing, to your point. There's a lot of people who say, you know, um, they make it seem as if they're looking for sort of something different, or they need a special wheel, or they need their own thing. And it's some of those people that very quickly they're in the wall, and
Yeah.
you realize this is a little more difficult than it looks. It's not your conventional simulator, and it's a very heightened experience, and it's been a fan favorite. We've only been open a few days, and the simulators are being talked about, and we knew it would be the case, and we're really excited about it.
This actually shows why, even though you think these guys are just driving, they are athletes. What they have to go through to be able to have quick response, I could not imagine what their forearms are like when it's done. The amount of sweat and water that they lose from this. It's such a combination. And thank you so much for bringing this experience to Toronto. How long is it running here for? And for folks who may not know, where is it? Where is it right now?
We're running into the summer, into July, and it's at 1 Yonge Street, which is the Lighthouse immersive venue. So it's right down at the lakeshore, and it's a great venue, and it's a great location for people who are downtown and out and about and going to a Blue Jay game or whatever you're doing. It's a great location, and we're right down at 1 Yonge, and you can get your tickets at f1exhibition.ca. And we're excited to be in Toronto, and we hope everybody gets a chance to come see us.
And folks, there are also some virtual photos you can take too. Like I said, it's a blast. What an experience. Jonathan, thank you so much for the interview. Thank you for you and your company bringing this to Toronto. What a way to have a fun summer. And my friends, safe driving.
Thank you very much for having me, and hope to see everybody down at 1 Yonge Street.